Good morning and welcome to Weekends with Whitney. Coming up in today's show, LSU's first and only Heisman Trophy winner, Billy Cannon. The legend talks candidly about his time on the field, his time in prison, and what he wants all of us to tackle in life. Plus, why all of these familiar faces are wigging out, and how, along with you, it's helping save lives. Then Dr. Nick examines why some of us flounder and others flourish in the face of adversity, and what we can do about it. But first, 57 years ago tomorrow, this play, one of the greatest in college football, happened right here in Baton Rouge. It was the Halloween night punt return of Billy Cannon. LSU won that game against Ole Miss because of this play. It's immortalized here in bronze. But he has, of course, found his way in the history books. I sat down with the legend recently to talk about his time on the field, his career, and his redemption.
Ole Miss, he stands on his own 28. He gets a pass from center, he boots it and gets another nice kick away going way downfield. Billy Cannon watches it bounce, he takes it on his own 11, he comes back upfield to the 15, stumbles momentarily, he's at the 20, running hard at the 25, gets away from one man to 30, still runs the 25, at the 35, the 25, he's down to the 50, he's in the 50, 45, 40. He scores!
At 79 years old, Billy Cannon's legendary punt return against Ole Miss on Halloween night 1959 is still considered by many college football historians as the greatest play ever. But he says even that was not his greatest moment. We talked about peaks and valleys in the road of life. Your peak was?
Probably next week.
I love that you think it hasn't happened
Oh
yet.
no, I got miles on me, but I'm still chugging.
Miles that have taken him from the pros to prison. Few people have risen so high and fallen so low. What was the valley?
Obviously the
prison.
counterfeiting, going to prison.
Was it the counterfeiting or was it the prison? Was it the crime or was it
both,
the punishment?
Both, because I can't split them. And just the stupidity of me doing that.
Despite playing pro football 11 years and having a thriving orthodontic practice, Dr. Cannon had big money problems. Not due to gambling like the press reported, but real estate.
I got locked into a situation. I bought a lot of raw land, and I had overbought. And of course, banks had started collapsing. The economy took a nosedive, and John Stiglitz came, this is the way out. And I fought it off until I knew the banks were going to come. And I yielded, and he printed it, and he was supposed to handle it. But he didn't handle it very well.
Nearly 30 federal investigators descended on Baton Rouge and followed Billy for months. When they finally arrested him, he confessed.
When something like that happens in your career, you find out who your friends are.
He spent 3 years in federal prison for that counterfeiting scheme. After getting out, the sports legend was shunned by most. He almost withdrew too. Then one day, he went back to prison voluntarily to work at Angola. He thought he'd stay maybe a year. It's now been more than 20. He reformed the entire prison medical program, as former Warden Burl Cain was improving the rest.
Being part of his team to help change it has been rewarding, been fun.
Having lived on both sides of the razor wire, Dr. Cannon and the inmates can relate.
The one I hear the most is, Doc, when I went out that night, I didn't plan to kill anybody. But we got in an argument, and he drew his gun and I drew mine. he's dead, and I just soon be dead because I'm here the rest of my life. I can understand how a man will put himself in that position. I said, now, to where one night, one day, one event can make you be locked up for the rest of your life.
For decades, publishers, writers, and fans begged him to write a book. He finally did it with the help of trusted author and friend, Charles de Gravel. What's your takeaway from the 126 hours that you spent with Billy, all the stories that you heard, writing the book? What's your takeaway?
Really broadly, people are complicated. People are complicated. And when he was everybody's hero, they really didn't know him. And when he was everybody's down in the gutter guy that they were kicking on him, nobody really knew him. Now they can know who he is.
He's a hero who fell from grace, but rose to find redemption. Is there a lesson in here?
Take the high ground.
Take the high ground.
Every time. And my daddy always had a great saying. It's not how high the peak, it's not how low the valley. It's how far across this damn valley we're in.
If you'd like to buy a copy of his book, you can do so through LSU Press, Barnes & Noble, or Amazon. And still to come, meet two young women who took drastic measures to save their own lives and find out why some familiar faces are wigging out to help women like them. Then navigating the unexpected detours of life with Dr. Nick. How to prevent that detour from turning into a dead end as Weekends with Whitney continues.
Maggio, the only way to go. Maggio Buick GMC, your satisfaction's our specialty. We really deliver on Falls River, here in New Roads. Small town atmosphere, legendary service for over 60 years. Maggio, the only way to go. The only way to go, that's Maggio.
9-time winner of the prestigious Buick GMC Mark of Excellence Award. Welcome back to Weekends with Whitney. It may look like I'm getting ready for Halloween tomorrow, but this is fighting cancer. It's part of the Susan G. Komen's Foundation fundraising effort to help find a cure. They've made tremendous strides over the last 2 decades in treatment and diagnosis. And so this year, they decided to do a new fundraising campaign, and it's called Bigwigs. I, along with some other community leaders, don pink wigs, yes, even the guys, to help fight and find a cure for breast cancer. We're part of the first Big Wig fundraising campaign to get free breast cancer screenings and treatments and other life-saving services for those in need. Every dollar counts. And if you'd like to donate a few dollars, go to KomenBatonRouge.org. One of the reasons why raising research dollars is so important, especially here in Louisiana, is that we have the second highest breast cancer mortality rate in the country. You're about to meet 2 women who could have suffered the same fate if not for quick, courageous, decisive action. 30-year-old Brittany Weems and 32-year-old Megan Gallagher have had double mastectomies, something 20 years ago you'd rarely hear of in young women. Yet both had their breasts removed under different circumstances. Megan Gallagher found a lump in her breast 3 years ago at the age of 30, just 1 month before her wedding. She went straight to her OBGYN.
My gynecologist at the time told me, you're in perfect health, you're only 30, go get married and come and see me in 3 months.
She went back 2 months later.
He again told me the same thing, that you're too young for cancer, come back in 3 months. And I kind of sat there and said, I don't think there's anything wrong, but I'd like to go and get this checked out. And he finally referred me to Woman's within, a couple weeks, and everything got started.
So he didn't even refer you to get a mammogram initially?
He just gave me an exam and that was it.
Her mammogram immediately showed trouble. They did an ultrasound the same day. then scheduled a biopsy for 2 days later.
I found out they were going to be biopsying not just the lump, but also the lymph node, so I figured something was up. So, and before I left, you know, because I was really nervous.
Sure.
I asked the doctor honestly, I was like, honestly, what do you see? And she said, you need to prepare yourself.
The radiologist also told Megan the biopsy results will be sent to her OBGYN, the same doctor who told her she was too young to have breast cancer. He'd have to be the one to give her the results.
I had to go see him one more time for the news. He never made eye contact with me or my husband.
The news was bad. She had stage 3 breast cancer.
It had already spread to one of my lymph nodes, and all he had to do was palpate that, and he would have known something was up.
Were you furious?
Yes. And it showed not just the one tumor, it had tumors all over my left side. I had some spots on my right side. He immediately referred me to Dr. Haley.
Are we seeing younger and younger girls?
We are, but we are now able to diagnose people who are younger because the technology has changed. In the old days, you couldn't see on a mammogram a mass in someone who was young.
Really?
These days, we have digital mammograms, three-dimensional mammograms, and breast MRI, and we can actually find subtle changes much, much earlier.
Treatment and surgical options have improved too, but for Megan, the most drastic, a double mastectomy, was agreed by everyone to be her best option.
From the beginning, from the time I figured something was really wrong, I said take them both. Obviously something was wrong to get cancer at 30, so might as well.
Megan had a hormone-fed cancer, so she also had a recommended hysterectomy. Along with her uterus went any chance of giving birth. She accepts it all with amazing grace.
I'd rather be here 40 years from now than, you know, have a child, and what if the child got cancer? I'd blame myself.
Whitney is a mom, wife, and a nurse. At 29, she decided to get genetically tested for the breast cancer gene. It came back positive.
I thought it was negative.
But she had prepared.
So I had made the decision that if I was positive, I was going to have the surgery.
3 years ago, actress Angelina Jolie made the same decision. But Whitney says it was not a factor into her decision.
I tried to not allow a lot of outside influences to persuade my care. Nobody has to live for me, and I have to be there for my children.
Only 4 weeks after discovering that she had the mutated gene, Dr. Michael Haley performed a double mastectomy.
Allows them to be proactive. In other words, it's the only way that we can allow them to reduce their risk by 95%.
And you're seeing more and more of that?
Yeah, we see it every day.
He says about 10% of his breast cancer patients have that mutated gene, so genetic testing is recommended only for those with a family history, like Brittany's 2 sisters. Both tested positive. One sister was undecided about surgery initially, but the other had a double mastectomy immediately. Brittany's never second-guessed her own decision.
The incisions, the surgeries, none of it has really given me that, oh no, what did I just do?
It's incredible.
It made it so much easier for my younger sister to have the surgery because she didn't see that I was scared or that I was affected. And so she went into it like the same way that I did. Headstrong, I'm not going to back down.
Reconstructive plastic surgeon Dr. Andrew Friel says patients today have better options.
We're able to go in, and while breast cancer surgeon is removing the breast, while the patient is still asleep, I can begin a reconstruction.
Dr. Friel can reconstruct the breast with the patient's own tissue or implants, either saline or silicone, all without posing any health risks.
Presence of breast implants before cancer doesn't decrease the chance of survival, doesn't lead to delay in diagnosis, so there's really no correlation to breast cancer in my opinion.
Dr. Haley says researchers don't know everything that causes breast cancer, but we're learning more every day.
You think they're probably environmental. You think it has to do with genes that maybe we don't know about yet. We know that lifestyle can certainly play a role in the development of a lot of cancers.
So do some hormones. Studies link menopause drugs, estrogen and progestin, used together to breast cancer. But what about the hormones younger women use? Birth control has anything to do with it?
Well, it's a hormone. So
Right.
what we've seen is that if women grow a cancer that's responsive to hormones and their own birth control, it can certainly cause that cancer to grow faster.
While the number of younger women diagnosed with breast cancer is on the rise, So are survival rates. They're at an all-time high, and the race for a cure is on. Will we find a cure for breast cancer?
Well, the optimist in me says we will. Now, will it be while I'm still practicing? I don't know. I mean, I'm hopeful for the next generation.
Be proactive about your health. Know what options are there, and don't back down.
I found out I had cancer and I got a chance to fight and I beat it. I didn't, get hit by a car and my life was over. Because cancer does not mean your life is over.
If you or someone that you know needs a free mammogram, log on to ColemanBatonRouge.org. And still to come on Weekends with Whitney. Dr. Nick explores how to rise above tragedy instead of crumbling underneath it. After this.
In November, we will ask you to renew the operating and maintenance tax that funds BRAC, your nationally recognized award-winning park system.
This renewal is vital to BRAC's continuing success in our community.
It keeps the light on at all our ball fields.
And the water flowing at our splash pads. It keeps the trails clean.
And the boogie flowing.
Go to BRAC.org and learn about all of the wonderful things we're doing. And don't forget to vote in November.
We saw just a moment ago in Brittany and in Megan the courage to fight, the will to live, the courage to win. We're joined this morning with Dr. Nick about what makes some people get it all together when they hear the worst of news and other people completely crumble. Here he is with that award.
And
good morning.
Good morning, Whitney, and especially a word like cancer. I laugh a little bit because years ago there was a movie, and I just remember the scene of, she's got the big C. We couldn't even talk about it. And now we're talking about it so openly and hopefully towards a cure. I mean, I want to just get that in, that we continue to mount ourselves and put some resources into the cure. Mm-hmm. But with regard to these two extraordinary people, I thank you for putting people like that on your show. Because now again, we're talking about emphasizing the positive and those who have willpower and those who are proactive, those who do not just fall apart. Mm-hmm. And that's really the issue.
Yeah.
At least that's the issue you raise to me every once in a while.
Oh, it is.
Why is it that some seem
to fall apart and others don't? And does it teach all of us that should we ever go down a similar path that we too can? It's motivating for me. But I don't know if it is for everyone.
Whitney, I as I said, say very often about some of these things, I'm not the sharpest pencil when it comes to answers because they're philosophical questions that really get into the very meaning and essence and purpose and mission and where we come from and what we're DNA'd.
So you said it didn't happen overnight. Like learning how to cope with these type of things goes way back.
Yeah, you were asking me about how one copes with a catastrophe. And I kind of responded, well, it's not really about the catastrophe. It's about what they've been doing long before that catastrophe came so that they were ready for it.
Which stunned me.
But when you think about it, it does make sense that we're building a proactivity all through life. And it may not start until much later in life. Some children have it harder than others. But you want to start it in childhood, where you build that sense of, again, resilience, and when bad things happen, how am I going to deal with them? When losses come, when I'm picked on, when I lose a best friend, when we have to move and I have to start off on a whole new school. Do you see, these are not necessarily losses that have to do with cancer, but they're losses. When someone that I've been working with recently can't hear anymore, a man who's got everything else going for him but he can't hear, and his whole focus right now is on how devastated it is that he can't hear. And I think that's tragic because I'm trying to work with him to see, I know it's a loss.
Sure.
And with these people who are struggling with cancer, we still don't know what the outcome's going to be. But that kind of will to live.
Well, and then one of them, double mastectomy and a hysterectomy. So her dreams of having a child will never be. And yet she said, you know what? There are a lot of great kids out there who need to be adopted.
You see how the positivity comes in? You see how, again, we reframe instead of becoming a victim, poor me. It's what am I going to do with what life's given me? It's always been my great question. What do I do with what's been dealt? With what's been dealt.
And how much happier she must be than the person who gets in bed and doesn't get out for 2 weeks.
Or doesn't get out for 2 weeks. Or the person that I sometimes fall into when things go bad or bad things happen and say, I'm just jinxed, or I'm unlucky, or God doesn't love me. It's like to catch those things and say, it's absurd. They're irrational.
True.
Everybody suffers. Everybody experiences loss.
But it's how we regroup and keep going that really can define us and define how the rest of our life will be, right?
Absolutely. And being able to step back, have obviously a very supportive system where we feel safe to be angry and to hurt through the loss, but then to pick ourselves back up again and move on.
Now,
life goes on.
Should that support system be family, friends, professional, medical doctors? What is there a magic team?
Probably any or all.
Okay.
But I love the notion of the magic team, because that does really kind of capture why not? Why not church? Why not have a counselor or a professional who's going to have some better life skills perhaps than a friend? But why not making sure you have very good friends who are there to listen and be there and to be supportive, but not necessarily to be advice giving.
True, true. Or not just to be your dumping ground.
Or to be the dumping ground.
Because that can,
yes,
it could be. I mean, we could all make it all about us all the time, and that's all you talk about for the next 3 months at work, and that's dreadful for everyone.
Yeah, and I just want to add one last thing to it, and that is, again, when we talk about where we get our proactive energy or our ability to do it, it really does have amazing results when we're around the right people. When we at least have some people around us who are positive and who are energetic and who are alive. You know, to me, I recently met someone and she can't see. I never knew she couldn't see because her eyes didn't show. You never know she was blind. What an attitude, Whitney. I smiled the rest of the day. That's the power. Well, aren't you moved by those two women?
Incredibly. It's why I did the story.
See, yeah.
I thought we all can learn something here.
Which again leads me to watch your show and shows like it, because we want to start our Sunday morning on a positive note.
Right, right. Full of hope and promise.
Full of hope and promise and persistence and being able to pick oneself back up.
And we've heard enough of the presidential candidates for right now.
I would say so.
That 4-hour debate.
I would say so.
Even I couldn't stay with it that long. But record audiences, we were talking about that a couple of weeks ago. It is interesting. It's a whole new political season.
Would that we had 23 million people interested in curing cancer. And we may. So
we may. You know,
turn that attention.
That's right. Dr. Haley says we may yet. Maybe not in his lifetime, but maybe in his daughter's lifetime.
That's a great way to hope.
That's right.
Happy Sunday, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Nikki. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Whitney.
Thanks. Much more coming up with Weekends with Whitney right after this. Atlas Foundation Repair, fixing your foundation problems for more than 30 years while preserving and protecting your trees. Thanks for sharing part of your Sunday with us here on Weekends with Whitney. We hope to see you back here next Sunday when we get the blues. Linda Wright is lead vocalist and ringleader of the New Orleans House of Blues Gospel Brunch every Sunday morning.
When you're chosen to come here to sing, it's an honor. It's a privilege to have the world at your feet on Sunday morning. And technically, that's what we have. That's what God told me. He said, Linda, I placed the whole world at your feet on Sunday morning. Give them your best.
The road to get here for Linda was a rocky one. She's battled drug addiction, cancer, and watched her singing career and her life fall into the gutter along the way. But it was God, she says, that pulled her out and up. In lifting her voice, she hopes to lift others.
They could go home and feel good, deal with the issues that they're dealing with. You know, if I can give them a word, you don't have to believe in my religion. That's okay. It's not about religion. It's about me giving you something that you can live with when you leave. And there are a lot of people that comes here that's dealing with issues. Children, husbands, friends, on their job, you know, just the economy today. All that, they're dealing with all that. So if I can just tell you to relax a little bit and let God take care of it, you know, I've been there, I know what you're going through. And if your God don't work, like I say, use mine while you're here. I promise you, he'll get the job done. You know? And you are mine.
That's next Sunday, right here on WBRZ at 9 a.m. Until then, have a great week. You can always follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We leave you this morning with this.